Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you're a boat owner, you know that dealing with engine trouble is part of the game. Today, we're diving deep into a common but sometimes tricky diagnostic trouble code, P0201. So, what exactly is P0201? In simple terms, it means your engine's computer, or ECU, has detected an electrical problem with the fuel injector for cylinder number 1. This isn't a code you want to ignore, because a faulty injector can lead to poor performance, rough idling, increased fuel consumption, and even potential engine damage if left unchecked. The ECU is constantly monitoring the electrical circuit for each injector. When it sends a signal to injector number 1 to open and spray fuel, it expects to see a specific electrical response. If that response is out of the expected range, either too high, too low, or non-existent, it triggers the P0201 code and usually illuminates your check engine light. This fault tells us the problem is electrical, not necessarily mechanical. So, the injector might be physically fine, but the signal to make it work is being disrupted. Now, let's talk about why this happens, especially in our world of marine engines. The number one culprit, hands down, is the harsh marine environment itself. Salt water, moisture, and humidity are the arch enemies of electrical connections. Over time, this environment causes corrosion on connectors, pins, and wiring. This corrosion acts like a barrier, increasing resistance in the circuit or causing an open circuit altogether. So, the first thing you should always suspect with a P0201 code on a boat is a bad connection. It could be right at the injector itself, or further down the line at the main engine harness connector. Vibration is another factor. The constant shaking and rattling of the engine can cause wires to rub against other components, eventually wearing through the insulation and causing a short circuit. It can also cause terminals inside a connector to become loose, leading to an intermittent connection that can be a real headache to diagnose. So, you've got a P0201 code? Where do you start? Let's walk through the diagnostic process step by step. First, safety. Always make sure your engine is off and the battery is disconnected before you start poking around with electrical components. Your first step is a thorough visual inspection. Pop open that engine cover and locate injector number 1. Look closely at its electrical connector. Do you see any signs of green or white crusty buildup? That's corrosion. Is the connector fully seated and secure? Is the locking tab broken? Follow the wires coming from the injector as far as you can. Look for any signs of damage, like chafing, melting, or breaks in the insulation. Sometimes, the problem is right there in plain sight. If the visual inspection looks clean, the next step is to test the injector itself. You'll need a multimeter. For this, unplug the injector's electrical connector. Set your multimeter to the OEM setting to measure resistance. Place the probes on the 2 electrical pins of the injector. You're looking for a specific resistance value, which you can find in your engine's service manual. It's usually somewhere between 11 and 80 OEMs, but always check your specific model. If you get a reading that's way too high, or OL for an open circuit, the internal coil of the injector has failed, and the injector needs to be replaced. If the reading is very low, close to zero, the injector is shorted internally, and again, it needs to be replaced. If the injector's resistance checks out, our problem lies in the wiring or the ECU. Now we need to check the wiring harness. This is where a service manual with a wiring diagram becomes your best friend. We need to check for continuity and for shorts. Let's start with continuity. Keep the injector unplugged and also unplug the main connector at the ECU. Using your wiring diagram, identify the 2 wires for injector number 1. At the ECU connector, set your multimeter to the continuity setting, which usually has an audible beep. Place 1 probe on the pin for one of the injector wires at the injector connector and the other probe on the corresponding pin at the ECU connector. You should hear a beep and see a reading close to 0 OEMs, indicating a good connection. Repeat this for the second wire. If either wire fails this test, you have a break in the wire somewhere in the harness that needs to be found and repaired. Next, check for shorts. Check for a short to ground by placing 1 probe on an injector wire pin at the connector and the other probe on a good engine ground. You should not have continuity. If you do, that wire is shorted to ground somewhere. Also, check for a short between the two injector wires themselves. You shouldn't have continuity there either. If the injector and all the wiring have passed their tests, the final suspect is the ECU itself. The component inside the ECU that controls the injector is called a driver. It's rare, but these drivers can fail. Testing the ECU driver directly is an advanced procedure and often requires specialized tools. A common way to confirm a bad driver is through substitution. If you're confident the injector and wiring are good, you could temporarily swap the ECU with a known good one to see if the fault clears. However, this is often the most expensive part to replace, so you want to be absolutely certain before condemning it. In most cases, the problem is going to be a corroded connector, a damaged wire, or a faulty injector. If the injector itself is bad, replacement is the only option. Make sure to get the correct part number for your engine model. When you install the new injector, it's a great idea to apply a little bit of dielectric grease to the electrical connector pins. This will help seal out moisture and prevent future corrosion, which is a fantastic preventative measure for any electrical connection on a boat. And that's a wrap on diagnosing the P0201 injector circuit fault. It might seem intimidating, but with a logical approach and a multimeter, you can often pinpoint the problem yourself and save a costly trip to the mechanic. Remember, visual inspection, test the component, then test the wiring. That sequence will solve most of your electrical gremlins. Thanks for watching. If this video helped you out, please hit that like button. Subscribe for more marine engine tips, and drop any questions you have in the comments below. Stay safe on the water, and we'll see you in the next one.